Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to this webinar. Welcome to the new secret of mastering French presented by the experts at the Alliance Française. I'm Romain Poirot, managing partner at Frenchly Media. If you're new to us, Frenchly is the premier English language publication for Americans passionate about the French culture, offering insights into French news, lifestyle, travel, and much more. Frenchly.us. Today's session features esteemed educators from the Alliance Française network who will share practical strategies to enhance your French language skills. If you have questions or wish to connect privately, please scan the QR code at the end of this session. And obviously, you can ask any questions you want in the Q&A section. If you're on Zoom, we're also live on YouTube. You can ask any questions in the comment section, and we will answer them at the end of this session. Now, Bryn, let's begin. The floor is yours.
Merci, Romain. Bonjour à tous. Welcome to the new secrets of mastering French from the experts at the Alliance Française. We have got a great panel of expert French teachers here today, and over the next hour, they will be providing you with great tips and secrets that will help everyone take your knowledge and skills in speaking French to the next level. My name is Bryn Vaaler, and I will be serving as the moderator for today's program. Today's program will last approximately 1 hour. And as Romain just said, if you have questions, please include them in the chat function or the Q&A function, and we will try to answer as many of your questions as we can at the end of the program. As he noted, today's program will be recorded and will be made available on Frenchly's and the Federation's internal YouTube page, along with this PowerPoint presentation. Before I introduce the great panel of experts that we have today, a couple quick words about the Alliance Française. The Alliance Française was founded in Paris in 1883 to promote the French language and French-speaking cultures all around the world. And today it is the largest cultural network in the world. There are over 800 independent chapters in 135 countries, including more than 100 here in the United States. U.S. chapters are nonprofit, charitable organizations. They're not financially subsidized by the French government. And just to give you a sense of scope, the U.S. chapters collectively deliver nearly 900,000 student hours of French instruction annually. The Fédération des Alliances Françaises USA is the nonprofit organization at the U.S. national level, representing and providing educational and cultural resources like today's program for the U.S. chapters. Melissa Sora, the Federation's national program manager, is with us today providing technical support, and she will be monitoring your questions for today's program. The thing that makes the Alliance Française so special is that you learn French in a real community, an immersive community. We offer language classes for all ages at all levels from beginner to expert. Our classes are effective because they are led by highly qualified native fluent instructors, and they are kept very small for immersive learning, highly interactive, customized to the needs of each of the students. But beyond the classes, Alliance Française chapters offer dozens of social and cultural events every year. You can attend those events. You'll be able to speak with and listen to your fellow students, as well as native French speakers who are part of the community. It's active learning, speaking, reading, listening, and writing in real time with real people. We are calling today's session the new secrets of mastering French because we've had actually 3 previous programs beginning back in 2021. And all 3 of these secrets of mastering French programs are available on YouTube after today's program. If you want to dig into this wealth of prior information, just follow the QR code that is on this slide. So today we will be providing a new set of secrets, but we will also be referring back to some of the great material in those earlier webinars. Now, let me introduce our all-new panel of Alliance Française experts, beginning with, from the center of the United States, Emeline Colson. Emeline is the executive director of the Alliance Française of Dallas. Emeline has truly taught French all around the globe. She began teaching in Germany. She taught at the Alliance Française in Arusha, Tanzania, in Africa. She served as head French trainer of the Alliance Française Hong Kong, and her work extended into Singapore. Emeline has a master's in arts, literature, and language from the University of La Réunion.
Bonjour.
From the Eastern United States, we have Ameneh Madjlessi. Ameneh is the academic director at the Alliance Française of Washington, D.C., and she's also an adjunct French professor at Georgetown University. Ameneh was born in Washington, D.C., but she was raised in Belgium and Iran. She began teaching French at the cultural section of the French embassy in Tehran. Ameneh has her master's in teaching French as a foreign language from the University Stendhal in Grenoble. And finally, from the Western United States, we have Elene Zedginidze. Elene is the executive director of the Alliance Française in Portland, Oregon, where she previously taught. She was born in the Republic of Georgia and began learning French at a very young age in elementary school. She has her master's in museum education and cultural studies from the École du Louvre. She has extensive experience teaching museum and art history education for adults and children. She too is trained and certified in teaching French as a foreign language. Before we start, part of our focus today is on what I call the stuck intermediate French student. I hear this all the time from people all over, including, incidentally, from my wife. I'm frustrated. I've got a great understanding of French grammar in my head. I can conjugate lots of verbs. I've got good basic vocabulary. I just can't get the words out of my mouth. And when I do formulate a sentence and someone responds in French, oh yeah, I'm lost. I don't understand. I can't respond in real time. So we have tips today for people at all levels, but I asked our panel to focus on at least some tips for the stuck intermediate, to get them off their plateau and successfully moving toward conversational fluency. And Elene, you have reached into your deep knowledge of art history and the world of museums to come up with what I think is a great suggestion for launching conversation, and that is using visual arts as a stimulus. Tell us about it.
Thank you, Bryn. Let me start by describing a situation where those who are currently studying French will recognize themselves. Where I was myself when I was studying English, and I put a lot of effort into getting myself unstuck, and here I am talking to you today in my imperfect English. The word imperfection, you will hear it a lot from me today. Anyway, so you invested a lot of time and efforts into learning French grammar and vocabulary. Now it's time for you to go out in the world and start using what you've learned in conversational setting. However, when time comes for you to speak, it's like your words are disappearing, they're completely evaporating. Why is it happening? You've studied so much. Well, one of the answers here is that the key to becoming conversational is not learning more, it's learning how to use what you already know. I use visual arts not only as a prompt for a conversation, but as a tool to help students to learn how to use what they already know. I would like to share one of the exercises. It's broken down in 3 steps. First of all, it's about describing the artwork. Secondly, it's talking about your feelings. And third step is discussing the meaning. So this exercise involves you, an artwork, and hopefully a friend, because it's nicer to do things together. Let's do this exercise together. And let's begin by the first step, the description. The description can be accomplished at any level, really, as long as you have some basic vocabulary, and can sound differently. If you're at the beginning level, your description can sound something like Je vois deux hommes avec deux chapeaux. Il y a une table, une bouteille sur la table. Il y a une nappe rouge. Les couleurs sont sombres, marron, gris, et rouge foncé. And that's pretty much it. In very simple words, you describe the artwork. If you're at a higher level, you can push the description a little bit further. You can describe it as deux hommes en train de jouer aux cartes. Tous les deux portent un chapeau. Il y a une bouteille au fond. L'ambiance est assez sombre. Quand je regarde le fond, je distingue quelques taches, peut-être des gens au loin. Il est donc possible qu'il se trouve dans une sorte de cabaret. Et voilà, your description is done. Let's proceed to the next step. The next step is thinking about how this artwork makes you feel. I would like to solicit someone's help. Maybe Emeline, can you talk about your feelings when you look at this artwork?
Oh, when I look at this beautiful painting from Degas, l'absinthe, I can say from at the beginner level, I can say, je suis triste, je suis seule, je suis perdue. For more intermediate level, I can say, je me sens fatiguée. If I want to use also slang language, je suis paumée. And then at a higher level, I can say, for example, je ressens toute la lassitude du monde sur mes épaules voûtées. Something like that.
Merci, Emeline. And we're going to get to the third step, which is discussing the meaning. Now, some of you may think that in order to describe or talk about the meaning of an artwork, you may need to have some additional information, such as something about the artist or historical context. If you have this information, that's good. But for the purpose of this exercise, you don't actually need. It's all about talking about what it means to you personally. Build an argumentation. Think about the story behind the artwork. Is there any message? Is the artist trying to communicate something? Let's see what the meaning of this artwork is. Maybe Ameneh, would you like to talk about it?
Oui, bien sûr. So, c'est une peinture très simple. This is a very simple painting. And in my opinion, Magritte wanted to say that l'image d'un objet n'est pas l'objet lui-même. The image of the object is not the object itself. And it means that, bien sûr, c'est une pipe. Of course, this is a pipe, but mais est-ce que vous pouvez l'allumer? Can you fire it? So that's why it's called ceci n'est pas une pipe. This is not a pipe, although we are seeing a pipe.
Well done. Elene, why does this exercise work? I mean, I can see it working, but tell me why.
Well, because visual arts, first of all, present a wealth of vocabulary from shapes to colors to feelings. Now, when you talk about your feelings looking at the artwork, you talk about your personal reactions, you tap into your emotions. You start speaking from the heart, you speak spontaneously, and you build your ability to express yourself in different situations and talking about different subject matters. When you talk about the meaning, you are expressing opinions, you're justifying your ideas, and you're defending your perspectives. All of these are essential skills for holding a meaningful conversation in French.
It's so important to do this with another learner, because then you are really not doing it in your head, but doing it, getting it out your mouth and understanding what the other person's saying. And as you say, Ellen, speak first, fix it later.
That's the main takeaway of this exercise. If you wait until you become fluent to start fluently, beautifully speaking, it's never going to happen by sheer magic. You really need to start speaking now. Speak often and speak imperfectly. It's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah. And you know, there's another form of art that I really love and that I think has some of the same ability to get the French words out of your mouth, and that's music. You know, the internet is full of all this popular music, popular songs by great French artists. Listen to them. You can find the lyrics on the internet. Follow the lyrics memorize the lyrics, sing along, and nearly all the popular songs by Gilbert Bécaud, Françoise Hardy, Maurice Chevalier, or more current singers, there is karaoke versions on the internet. You can sing for your friends, show them that you can sing a Gilbert Bécaud song. Okay, Emeline, I talked about the Alliance Française providing more than just classes. It also provides a community in which you can immerse yourself and converse. And that's really essential, right?
Yes, for me, that's the strength of the Alliance Française and of our network, is that we connect people and we build communities. And so, yeah, we have two missions. We teach French and we promote the culture from French-speaking countries, but it's connected. They go together. And to improve your French and practice, immerse yourself as much as possible. Go to the events that you can have online with the Fédération of the Alliance Française, but also at your local Alliance Française. It can be wine tasting, apéro, cooking class, literature, talk, conferences. That will be a great opportunity for you to hear French and also to meet different people, Americans, classmates, French people also. Because, for example, yesterday I had an event with the French community and they said, we love going to the Alliance Française because we can meet Americans. And that's what we do at the Alliance Française. We build bridges. So, yeah.
Of course, you got to decide up front that you're going to speak French. You're not going to just speak English at these events. You know, you say that you can also, even at an intermediate level, immerse yourself in French literature and poetry. That may seem kind of heavy to some of our intermediates out there.
Yeah, I would like to debunk the myth of literature and reading literature in French being the highest mountain to climb. It can be accessible at intermediate level and even at beginner level because, yeah, Elene mentioned visual arts. But reading will help you a lot. It's not just for advanced learners, it's just to practice your pronunciation. For example, you talked about music, but reading books, reading a text out loud, it will help you pronunciation and your fluency and especially build your confidence. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's not an activity that you will do by yourself. You have a group, check your Alliance Française. Sometimes you have book clubs, you have read aloud sessions. You can practice and it will be a moment to share through literature.
And for those who have some doubt, Emeline has put together a great list of literature and poetry that is very abordable, very approachable for people at the intermediate stage or even a little bit before.
Yes, even for A1 level. And of course, it's just small examples. Of course, if you have more ideas, you can type it in the chat. We'll be happy to hear it at the end of this webinar. But poetry of Jacques Prévert, because it's very accessible and you can understand easily and you will be proud to understand French poetry because he uses daily life situation and vocabulary. So we will see an example later. Le Petit Nicolas, classic, can be accessible for A2 level. Monsieur Ibrahim et les fleurs du Coran. All the writers to mention, Amélie Nothomb, short stories, Anna Gavalda, and for example, also Nobel Prize, Annie Ernaux. My students were so proud when she won the Nobel Prize a few years ago to say, oh, we managed to read a Nobel Prize in French and we are not advanced levels, so it's good. Camus also, and of course, a lot of comic books. I will recommend Les Cahiers d'Esther by Riyad Satouf. It's also very fun comic books for you to read.
Emeline mentioned Jacques Prévert, and if you're not familiar with the beloved 20th century poet Jacques Prévert, here's a great example of his, I mean, truly disarmingly simple style and his humor. And here he is using that style and humor to sort of elegantly analyze a structural element of the French language itself. Elene, can you read Il pleut de Jacques Prévert?
Absolutely. Il pleut, il pleut, il fait beau, il fait du soleil. Il est tôt, il se fait tard. Il, toujours il. Toujours il qui pleut et qui neige. Toujours il qui fait du soleil. Toujours il. Pourquoi pas elle? Jamais elle. Pourtant, elle aussi souvent se fait belle.
C'est belle. Wait, but even with the great poetic figures of the 19th century, an intermediate can, at least in part, read the poetry and appreciate it. Emeline, how about a little Paul Verlaine?
Bien sûr, mon rêve familier. Je fais souvent ce rêve étrange et pénétrant d'une femme inconnue et que j'aime et qui m'aime, et qui n'est chaque fois ni tout à fait la même, ni tout à fait une autre, et m'aime et me comprend.
Et même et me comprend. You know, your local Alliance Française chapter has all of these resources in their library, Emeline, right?
Yes. Please visit the library. Ask your teachers or librarian to help you, to guide you, because usually you have a learner's corner with the different books depending on your level. So you have the easy readers. You have also bilingual books. Could be a good way to improve your vocabulary and understand things. If it's not a bilingual book, just try also, it's okay, again, not to understand everything when you read a text. When I read a book in English or in Spanish, I don't understand everything. Fine. The important is to get the message. And you can also listen to audiobooks and check the graphic novel sections, and also magazines like Bien Dire. They have simple vocabulary, and they have also articles translated in English. So yeah, pick a short story, a poem, read it once or twice silently, once aloud and once with a friend and a classmate. I have some students, they come every week at the Alliance every Tuesday, and they come with a poem because they know I like poetry, and they're very proud to be able to say a short poem in French. So just try.
Fantastic. Okay, Ameneh, you encourage French students who want to take their learning to the next level to make sure that they understand what their learning style is for the language. What do you mean by learning style?
Yes. Well, oftentimes adult learners, they come to us and they say, I'm too old to learn a language. And I strongly believe that adults can learn better than young people because they know what they want. They have a goal, they choose to learn the language, and at the same time, after having been a student for many, many years, they also are conscious about their learning style. So some people are visual, some people learn better by listening, and some people, like myself, are kinesthetic learners, meaning that they learn best by writing and labeling and associating words together and doing activities that helps them with memorizing things. So knowing what your learning style is helps you with yourself defining how you want to approach the learning matter. So this is very, very important, and it helps you a lot.
You talk also about the role of etymology. Tell us about the role of etymology in learning French.
So for those who may not know what etymology is a study of origin of words. And of course, many of French words are from Latin or Romance languages, or even Arabic or Persian or in Hindi languages. So knowing the root and origin of words help you a lot with memorizing. It's a wonderful study. It's like studying history. And at the same time, it helps you with connecting with words in their logical. Because when you know the root, when you know where the word is coming from, and the original meaning is when you add a prefix or a suffix to the word, you can create words, or you can understand words that are derived from the original words. I'm giving you one example, which can be interesting for English speakers, and it is the verb porter, which means carry in French. And then you have transport, transportation, support, support, importer, to import, apporter, to bring. So this, and you can see, and we will see that later, that some of these are transparent words, which are the same words in French and in English. If you know the root of the basic verb, and then you can add up more verbs, this can add up to your vocabulary.
Ameneh, you're also a big fan of something very practical, which is simply labeling things around the house or using flashcards, not only to learn the noun itself or the thing, but also the gender of that item.
Yes, as I told you, I am myself a kinesthetic learner. So learning and memorizing vocabulary, words, grammar, and genders, especially in French, through labeling, making flashcards, color coding, and different activities that help you both visually, but also by doing activities can help with memorizing and mastering vocabulary and expanding the vocabulary. Because Elene and Emeline, they had wonderful presentations on how you can describe a painting or an artwork, or for example, learning a language through poetry and literature. You need vocabulary for all these activities. So
absolutely. You know, you mentioned putting the le or the la with the word in order to try to cement what in your head what the gender of a particular noun is. And you know, the gender of nouns is one of the, I think, toughest things for an Anglophone to deal with in learning French, or for that matter, I guess, any other Romance language. You know, Emeline, is it just a matter of memorizing every single noun in order to know what gender it is, le or la, or are there some flags out there, some indicators?
No, you don't need to memorize everything. We have some rules, but we also have a lot of exceptions. That's the beauty of French language. But the gross rule is if a noun will be feminine if it ends with E. For example, une table, une chemise, or with ion, révolution, diction, profession, things like that. But as I said before, we have exceptions. For example, for the words ending with âge, age, or isme. Can you give me an example of a noun with âge? Someone?
chauffage, le chauffage.
Le chauffage, merci. With age?
Privilège.
Le privilège. And with isme?
Tourisme.
Le tourisme, exactly. All masculine. So that's a rule, and nearly every other noun ending is masculine. But you have a few exceptions again, like un homme, it ends with E, but it's masculine. Un verre, masculine. But maybe you can share a more detailed list about that.
Yeah, here's a more detailed list. We actually talked about this in one of our other sessions here, and I think this is actually a very helpful list. You can see the common masculine endings in blue here, how appropriate, the common feminine endings in red here. But again, as Emeline says, even in a more detailed list of endings like this, there's a lot of good information here, but there are exceptions, and that's the issue. You know, just to complicate things in a really fun way, Elene, there are some French nouns that can be either masculine or feminine, but they mean different things if they're masculine, and they mean different things if they're feminine. Give us some examples of that.
Well, the list is longer than that, but these are great examples here. I love the picture of a little goat. I see it, it makes me laugh. C'est une chèvre, n'est-ce pas? But if you want to talk about a goat cheese, you also use the same word, but it's un chèvre. Un livre is a word that most likely you've learned at your very first French class because you've used some kind of a book. But if you're talking about weight in pounds, you also use livre, une livre. Let's say you need to send a letter or a package. You're going to go to la poste. But if you're explaining to someone what you do, what is your position at your work, you're talking about le poste. La manche is a part of your garment, it's a sleeve. If you capitalize la manche, it's becoming the English Channel. But there is also a masculine version of this word. If you're doing a do-it-yourself home improvement project and you're holding a tool by its handle, well, you're holding it by le manche. A few more examples here. I will focus on the word mémoire. La mémoire is where I store the memories from past. Le mémoire, well, I wrote le mémoire when I was at the in college. And in my spare time, sometimes I read memoirs, and these are les mémoires, feminine and plural.
Those are a lot of fun. And, you know, Ameneh, you mentioned this when we were talking about etymology. English and French, they've got a lot of joint history as languages, and there are a lot of words that are derived from the same Latin or other linguistic roots in English that are almost identical to those in French, and you call those transparent words. Talk about that for a second.
Yes. So when we are beginners in a language, we are worried because we don't have enough elements to speak. Well, it's just enough for you when you learn French to learn the basic sentence structure. So to have you do have a subject and you know all the pronouns. It's easy to memorize. You have verbs, and we have a lot of regular verbs, easy to memorize as well. And then we have transparent words like cinéma, théâtre, sandwich, chocolat, salade. And then you can add and you can make sentences. And as I showed you in my previous slide, so we have with the etymology, we can see that we have a lot of words that we don't even realize that they are common in both languages. They could be from French or other origins, but we can use those, and it gives us tools, and also it helps us to come over our fear of not finding the word to communicate.
And you call those vrais
The
amis
vrais amis.
in addition to transparent, which means true friends. And you call them true friends because you got to be careful when you're looking at words that are sort of the same in English and French, right? You got to be careful.
Absolutely. Because we also have false friends, les faux amis. And these are words that look exactly the same in both languages, but unfortunately, they do not mean the same at all. So we really want to be careful about those words. Although it is not important to use them incorrectly, it's going to be funny. It can be considered as an icebreaker, even in a conversation, if you want, if you make such a mistake, if it's not too huge of a mistake. But some of the very common ones that, for example, we have are actuellement and actually. Actuellement in French means at present, now, and actually, as you know, in French, the equivalent would be en fait ou en réalité. So, and generally, English speakers, they tend to mix up and use actuellement, or for example, issue. In French, une issue is an exit. But and not an issue in French would be un problème. Ou un point de désaccord. So, and usually people, they say, j'ai un issue. Non, j'ai un problème.
And if you're staying overnight on a cold night in France and you ask someone for a blanquette, what are they
And
going to
that
bring
would
you?
be a veal stew,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, I see. Okay, une couverture is what you want to ask for. Emeline, what is your favorite faux amis?
Yeah, as Ameneh say, we have a lot of vrais amis. Actually, 30% of English vocabulary come from French, so you have a lot of transparent words. But the faux amis that I really like the blanquettes. I like the library It's a common mistake. Je vais à la librairie ou je vais à la bibliothèque. It's a very common one. You have funny one that you will hear in the French class with excited, excité, which has a different meaning too. So you have a lot.
Yeah, you can make mistakes in that, and it's a little embarrassing, but
No.
don't worry. You've got to, yes, say it anyway, right?
Say anyway, and try to laugh about the differences between the words and the culture. Yeah.
And Ameneh, you have a theory about numbers, the importance of numbers in a foreign language.
So I must be honest, this theory belongs to my dear colleague and friend Alisa Webel from Georgetown University. Well, numbers are the hardest to use naturally in a foreign language. This is true. But French numbers are another, in French, we would say paire de manches. So is another story. Because if you want to say, for example, 99 in French, you have to say 4 times 20, 10, 9. So it makes it 3 times harder to learn the language. So this learn the numbers. So this is one thing. Learning numbers is hard to start with. But according to Alisa, and I tested it, and I totally agree with her, practicing number helps to react and ease the transition from one language to the other. So, Alisa recommends to her students to count and to use numbers. And whenever they see, for example, a car passing by, to read the numbers out loud in French. Or, for example, phone numbers or street numbers or any numbers, or of course, when you're when you have insomnia, you can then count from 1 up to whatever number you can until you fall asleep in French. It really helps you to switch your brain and to transit in from English into French.
Great idea. That's a great idea for going to sleep, for sure. Elene, another way of helping our intermediates get off that plateau is by doing something else fun, not just using the visual arts as a stimulus, but watch TV series or other forms of popular entertainment in French.
It's important to keep your motivation. It's important to have something fun to do with the language learning. And there are several things that you can do to keep things fun. One is watching TV series. You have a few examples here. My favorite is Les 10%, which is very fast-paced, plenty of slang in there, plenty of expressions. It's funny. Please put the French subtitles. If you're looking, if you're watching a movie with the English subtitles, it's a pleasure. You understand everything. But for the purpose of the learning the language, put the French subtitles to train your ear. I'm sure in the audience you have other suggestions about great series to watch. Please head to the chat section and share your suggestions.
And I mentioned all of these on this page are available on American cable on one source or another, so they're great.
Let me talk about other ways to keep things fun. Reading comic books or graphic novels. Now, in our Alliance, a lot of beginning students ask the office to help them find kids' books from our library, because kids' books use a simplified language, short sentences, and it's a great way to start reading. However, let's be honest, as an adult, how many kids' books you're going to read and still look forward to reading yet another one? At some point, your motivation will not be there where it needs to be. That's where comic books and graphic novels come into play. There are so many different kinds of graphic novels and comic books, from very funny ones like Le Prof, Le Chat, to the ones that deal with more complex subject matter. There are literary adaptations, there's sci-fi genre, you will find something that you will like, even if you think that graphic novels is not really something that you would enjoy. they're visually engaging with wordplay and humor. It keeps your brain active at all times.
You know, the French have really pushed the bande dessinée, or the BD, they call it, to very sophisticated ends and just great humor. So this is really a source that's kind of unlike any other cultures out there. The French are just nuts about BD. You even mentioned stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy is a great example. Just like with the series, watch them with French subtitles and have a goal every time you watch stand-up comedy. Learn one joke. Just take away one joke out of it, and next time you meet with your francophone friends, try to retell that joke. It's important because part of your language learning journey in order to become truly fluent is to understand the culture in depth. And the most difficult part in understanding culture, and I'm talking from my personal perspective, is understanding humor. And even harder is to tell a joke.
I
That's where
agree with
stand-up comedy
you.
will help you.
It's always something I ask my student, and I say, once you master, you can tell a joke in French, you will master the language. I also to play what we say in French, like Monsieur et Madame, instead of the knock-knock jokes, a way to understand the culture. You're right, Elene.
I absolutely agree. This last tip that I would like to share with you may seem a little counterintuitive because we're talking about conversational fluency, yet here I am presenting you a writing exercise. However, it's a very specific exercise. Watching movies, reading books, if you're very busy, you may not be able to do it on daily basis. However, it's important to maintain daily practice. This exercise allows you to set only 5 minutes a day aside, sit down and write something. It can be just a few sentences. It's your own journal. Nobody will read it. Nobody will correct it. Nobody will judge you. So sit down and spontaneously write something. The first thing that comes into your mind. The idea is to write spontaneously. And if nothing comes to your mind, you have a prompt here on the slide. Start by saying, Aujourd'hui, je me suis levé, and continue from there. This will help your brain to switch into French thinking mode, and that's what you need for conversation.
Okay, Ameneh, you also recommend expanding vocabulary as you use it by learning synonyms and antonyms. Tell us about that.
So some people may ask themselves, why is she obsessed about vocabulary? And for someone who has been suffering from dyslexia all her life, mastering vocabulary in foreign languages and even in my native language has always been a challenge for me because it's a difficulty and it's a handicap for people who suffer from dyslexia. So I have studied all the different tools and means of how to memorize and keep and master different words, because the more words you have in your possession, the higher level you are in, and the more capacity you have in communicating. So yes, in order for you to expand your vocabulary, each time you bump into a word, try to find the synonyms of that word or the antonyms, the opposites of the word, and write them down, make a list, and then that way, and try to use them separately in the same context so that you master them best, and that will help you a lot with mastering words.
You also say that in order to really begin conversational fluency, you've got to focus on everyday expressions. It's fun to learn some slang, and it's fun to learn some idioms, right?
Absolutely. So we are now progressing step by step. At beginner levels, we need to acquire basic words. Then we go to the intermediate level, and now we reached more advanced levels. We need to be as close as possible to native speakers, and that would not be possible without everyday expressions, slang, and idioms. And the thing is that, well, we learn at the beginning the standard French, which is not necessarily what we hear when we go to French-speaking countries in the streets, at the university, and in the public. So the slang is very, very important. And I second and third my dear colleagues, Emeline and Elene, in watching movies and French series. But if you don't have this slang, unfortunately, you will maybe not be able to understand. So my recommendation would be to watch those movies and series with subtitles, write down the words that you don't understand, look them up, and then find the synonyms and antonyms of that, and make a notebook and a list of those words for yourself. And for a second time, if you have time, of course, to watch that movie or series without the subtitle, and you will see that you understand the whole story without even needing to go through translation.
Let's just give some concrete examples here. Everyday expressions. If you look at the words on this slide in French, even in after your first year of learning French in school, you know all these bonjour, bonsoir, allez, bon weekend, bonne chance. The thing is, start using those words. Use them at the Alliance or whatever other environment you're in, and use them even if everyone else is speaking English. What the heck? Show them that you're learning French. And Emeline, you said that one of the things you were shocked by when you came here is that even expressions from French that are part of common English, like RSVP, use them correctly, right?
Exactly. So that's why it's also, I second Ameneh on what she say about watching movies, TV show, and write down expression. One homework I used to give to my student is watch a TV show, write down 3 slang expression or daily expression, and next week you share that and you use it in a context. Yeah.
And you don't need to say please after RSVP because it's
Yeah.
répondez s'il vous plaît, so it's in there already. And here's some example. You know, we're not going to go through word for word here, but here's some very common French slang used all the time. You hear it all the time in the streets. You hear it all the time in movies. Elene, Emeline, Ameneh, give us a couple of your favorites here.
Mine is kiffer, which is, relatively new, which means to enjoy, to love, to like. Depending on the context, it can change meanings, of course.
Cool. Je kiffe, that's a verb, right? Okay.
Yes.
I love that. Yeah.
Arabic, yeah. Je kiffe, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Je me suis gouré. I made a mistake, right? J'ai la trouille. I'm scared. Give me that bouquin, that book. So lots of good things. Listen for these in the movies and in the series and try to use them in a sentence.
Yeah, like un pote, un ami, un copain, un pote, it's very common. C'est mon pote.
Yep. And my brother is mon frangin. My sister is ma frangine. All the time. And there's nothing icky about any of this argot. It's just, that's how people talk. And then there is a special kind of slang or argot in French, Emeline, that's called verlan. Tell us just a little bit about that. Yeah.
Verlan, if you switch, envers, à l'envers, reverse. A lot of people use it in French, not only the young generation, but everyone. So there are some words. It's fun also to learn how to build that. Please try with some, it works most of the time. But for example, méchant, chambé, c'est chambé. Means it's nice. Ce film est chambé, it's nice. Louche, c'est chelou. One we use a lot for saying c'est fou, it's crazy, it's amazing. C'est ouf.
C'est ouf.
Ouf, c'est un truc de ouf. Une femme, une meuf. Yes. That's
verlan.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have idioms you mentioned too. And, it's like English. There are a million idioms out there. But in French, there are some that are used all the time. Ameneh, what are some of your favorite idioms here? And
So
what are they?
I have 2 on this list. One of them is un jus de chaussette for a bad coffee. especially if you know the French culture. Drinking good coffee is really important. You know, French people, they don't like bad coffee. And jus de chaussette means literally sucks juice, which is very yucky, of course, but at the same time, it shows how much they don't appreciate bad coffee. And then the other one is tomber dans les pommes, which is means to faint. And when I teach this expression, I always tell my students that to remember that scientist who discovered the graffiti, you know, what happened to him. And then I say, oh, Newton. And I said, yes, exactly. And il est tombé dans les pommes. So, and these are expressions. They are wonderful because people, they do not forget them, and they have a story, and people relate to them, and they are fabulous to learn. It's very, very motivating for people to learn expressions.
And there are idioms that are used commonly in continental France and Europe, but you know, there are also French is spoken in 4 continents all around the world. Emeline, you've taught French all around the world, and there are other idioms you should be aware of that are sourced from other parts of the world, right?
Yes, and it's very interesting. So, for example, I really like se saper that we use in French language in France too, but it comes from Kinshasa, from the République démocratique du Congo. Les sapeurs, sapeurs, it means société des ambianceurs et des personnes élégantes. Society of people who like to party and for elegant people, and it's an art de vivre in Congo, but we use it in the French language to say to dress well. Je me sape ce soir.
And if I may, idiomatic expressions, they reflect culture. They reflect a history. So it is very, very important to understand the culture of a country. And we don't only speak French in France. To understand culture, history, and the story, it's really, really important. And I know that students, learners, they are fascinated, just like myself. When I learn an idiomatic expression in English, I am fascinated. And I usually don't forget it. And usually I use it correctly where I should, because I understand it. And it helps me to understand the mentality, the way of thinking, and the culture also.
And the diversity of French all over the world.
That's absolutely right. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our time, and we do want to have time for a few questions, but I want to give le dernier mot to each of our 3 Alliance Française experts. What is the one short piece of advice that you would give somebody, our attendees, in order to help them take their French from where it is today to the next level? Ameneh, what would it be from you?
So what I am going to say is nothing new. It's been repeated by my dear colleagues already. If you are a perfectionist and that helps you with your profession and your studies, that's perfect. But please don't be a perfectionist in learning French or any language, because that will stop you from communicating and speaking. It's perfectly okay to make mistakes. Language is a tool to communicate, and it is okay to communicate even by making mistakes.
That's great advice. Emeline.
Yeah, I agree with Ameneh. Take every opportunity, any opportunity to speak. Have fun speaking and learning new language. It's okay to make mistakes. I make mistakes in English, Spanish, German, but the important is to communicate with your friends, your classmates, become a member of the Alliance Française to access all the resources that we mentioned before, library, Culture Tech, which is an online library accessible to Alliance Française members, and connect with your community, with the Alliance Française.
Elene.
Well, I'm going to repeat myself, Ameneh and Emeline, by saying, don't be afraid of imperfection. Speak first, fix later.
Speak first, fix later. Perfection paralysis is a horrible disease. Melissa, we have a few minutes here before we reach the end of our hour. Do we have any questions that we can pose to our expert.
Yes, merci, Bryn. We've had a lot of great questions and comments. Somebody suggested the singer Luan as a great source of songs that are straightforward, but with lots of emotion and color. And some other people have asked for other suggestions for artists, singers, playlists that could help them in their studies. To Emeline, Elene, or Ameneh, do you have any suggestions?
I will suggest also on Spotify, you type either classic French or jazz French or French song. You have a lot of playlists already made, and the good thing with that is you can also read the lyrics in French, so that's useful. You can go, maybe I think it's going to be available soon also in the US, but there is a new movie presented in Cannes, in the Cannes Festival, Partir un jour. It's a movie with a lot of French songs, so I will recommend to go watch this movie to understand more about the French culture, and go to some of the Alliance Française chapters a lot, maybe. They have karaoke nights.
I also recommend TV5 Monde for in the section of langue française. They have a lot of songs and they have activities on that. So you can listen to the song, you can complete the text, you can conjugate the verb. So it comes with activities. So don't forget, this is a wonderful source of learning the language. And it has all kind of documents, different kind of, for example, you can practice learning idiomatic expressions from France, but also from other French-speaking countries, would it be Canada, Belgium, or African French-speaking countries. They have documentaries, they have stories, they have literature activities, they have interviews. So this is a wonderful resource that is done by experts from other chapters of AFs in France, especially from Vichy, Kavilam Vichy in France, and which I highly recommend.
And one more thing, soon it's La Fête de la Musique, June 21st. You will have events linked to music everywhere in the world, and I'm sure your Alliance Française chapters will organize something about music.
You should also Google the great French singer currently, whose name is Stromae, which is Verlan for maestro, and very popular. Fun to listen to his lyrics. A lot of great humor. Stromae. Okay,
Bryn,
Melissa. Yes.
Do we have maybe a QR code we could scan to see a little more about the Alliance and the Fédération?
Yes, we do. Here, in fact, it's on the next slide here. Let me just jump to that. Here's a QR code. This will take you to the website of the Fédération of Alliance Française USA. Again, that is the national level organization that represents and provides resources to all of the 100+ independent chapters of the Alliance Française. The other thing that, Romain, that you can find if you go to this site, in addition to the past secrets programs and the PowerPoints, is a map of the United States that shows where all those 100+ chapters are. And you can identify what is the nearest Alliance Française chapter to you. And, if you contact them, you can take a free placement test. They'll tell you where you are, how effective your 9th grade French still is after all these years. And you can sign up for a free newsletter. So lots of stuff that you can find on the website of the Fédération. Melissa, how about we got like one more question we can do, I think, in the time remaining.
Yeah, sure. One more question, a grammar-related question. What are your tips for the best way to remember verb tenses? That's a tough one. Ameneh, Elene?
Practice, to exercise this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because this is too general of a question. Memorizing verb tenses, it's general. We don't memorize verb tenses. First, because one thing is very important. because we do not have the exact equivalent tenses in French and in English. Like, for example, passé composé ou passé simple are not the same. Ou l'imparfait even. We don't have imparfait. We don't have the imperfect tense in English. So for me, the first thing is to understand the tenses in French and then to know what the use is when you use le passé composé versus imparfait. And then there are rules to learn how to make the conjugations. Like, for example, le passé composé, vous avez la maison d'être, the 14 verbs of action, which are conjugated with the auxiliary être, and all other verbs except for reflexive verbs and verbs with pronouns are conjugated with avoir. So we have rules, but unfortunately, I do not believe in memorizing verb conjugations.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Bryn. I was just going to say, I thought we had a good suggestion earlier on about using song lyrics and poetry.
That's a great way. That's a great way to learn that the verb, the tenses. All of a sudden, you're singing a lyric and you're conjugating and using the right mood. You're using the right tense.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
For example, with the students, I used a lot Le Tourbillon de la Vie from Jeanne Moreau. It's a great example to remember the imparfait. Elle avait des bagues à chaque doigt.
Okay, I think we are just about out of time. Romain, did you want to make a last announcement before I say goodbye to our friends?
Yeah, I think we're pretty all set. I just checked the QR code works, so feel free to reach out to your local Alliance. Thank you all. We have hundreds of messages in the chat about amazing webinar. Thank you all. Great team.
I want to thank, yes, I want to join you in thanking our team. What a fantastic team putting these things together. And to our attendees, I just want to say merci de votre présence aujourd'hui. I wish you all the best of luck in becoming fluent in French. And I'm sure on all of our part, Romain and our experts and Melissa, I wish you great luck. Au revoir et à bientôt.
Merci, au revoir.
Merci.
Au revoir.
Well, bye. See you soon.